Hello, folks. Welcome. It's another House Coat Chat. Your dude in the House Coat, Justice Truth, and my name is Justin. I am changing it up a wee bit today because, well, I'm a hockey guy. I love the Olympics, and the House Coat was not needed today because one of the first things I want to kind of talk about on the show, you all know what the scone is for. Yes, that's the first thing I should talk about on the show. The scone is lit for you if you're missing a loved one, inspiration from someone, anything like that, or you're going through an illness. That scone is lit for you and positive vibes and everything else that way. I am going to put on some sunglasses, folks, because I'm not liking my eyes, and red is the color of the day that I am wearing. Yes, folks, we just successfully watched the Olympics, so to speak, and we had a very long, I guess, week since the loss of our dear Canadian. I hope most of you remember this classical jersey. Yes, this is actually from World Cup of Hockey many, many years ago, called the Canada Cup. The cup was very similar looking to what this flag and half Canada thing is. And I am only wearing it because I am celebrating the fact that our boys did extremely well in this tournament, despite not winning gold and whatnot. They played exciting hockey. They tried their hardest. They really did give us entertainment. They gave us heartaches. They gave us rushes. They gave us headaches. They gave us a lot, folks. And the one thing I've noticed, and I only use X and YouTube as social media, so to speak, I have noticed a lot of bashing of the American players that are on Canadian teams. And it blows my mind, folks. It really, really does. On the simple fact that it's a hockey game. It's our bread and circus that we enjoy to take a break from reality of this life that we live in this dystopian post-national state called Canada. Yes, folks, we are not a good country anymore. I guess evidently losing the gold, I guess, makes us even worse. And all you people out there that are cheering on everybody to go into the White House as an American team did to celebrate their win of their first hockey gold medal since 1980, which is what, 46 years ago, if I'm correct with that thinking. And what are we doing? They're bashing the players. They're asking, reporters are asking idiotic questions such as that, like Connor McDavid being asked, what's it like basically to be a loser? I am paraphrasing here, but what an idiotic question to ask. One of the greatest players to ever play this game. Yes, he did not win in juniors. Yes, he did not win in the Stanley Cup Finals. And yes, he did not win an Olympic gold, but he won silver this time, folks. And he won Four Nations Cup. He may be an Edmonton Oiler. I'm a Flames fan on David, but as a Canadian hockey player, he is amazing. But again, as a Flames fan, right? That is what I am trying to tell you, folks. I think it's wildly telling of our country in its state of, I don't know how to put it, I guess a Stockholm syndrome or something like that, MK Ultra. Because one thing I found out, because since I am a news junkie, somebody went down the rabbit hole and her name is Jasmine Lane. And yes, folks, give her a shout out and a follow. She's on YouTube. She is on X. She is an excellent reporter, ex-mainstream reporter from Ontario, doing it on her own. She got to speak at the Canadian Progressive Conservative Leadership Convention. But let's get back to hockey, folks. That's where I want to focus this on. But yes, all these people screaming and clamoring about, oh, the big bad Americans won the gold medal. How dare they show their face at the United States government office or the Congress halls, or show up with President Trump, and or make an off-color joke about the women's hockey team that I guess Trump said something about. Anyway, that's all water under the bridge for me on the issue of all those little tiny things, because what was witnessed during this whole event of this Olympic magnitude of sports is that it was entertaining. It was good hockey. Tonight, I'm going to be watching my first game since the Olympics, and I'm going to tell you, it's going to hurt because the level of skill, speed, tenacity, energy, and everything else that was put into the Olympics for these players that went over there. My God, the bashing is insane. In fact, trying to call Brady to Chuck ugly is your only defense to losing to the Americans because you called him ugly. Do you think he really cares? He's married and has kids, and his wife's pretty good looking. She's a lucky man, or she's a lucky lady, not a lucky man. He is a lucky man. Anyway, do you think he really cares? But the level of stupidity, the level of emotional IQ draining responses from these Canadians who have been brainwashed. And yes, let's get back to Jasmine Lane. Thank you. I meant to say is that she investigated how many times CBC has mentioned Trump in their keyword search on the internet, basically. So articles basically for the last, I guess, 5 years or so is in the thousands regarding Trump. Justin Trudeau, not so many. Pierre Poilievre is in the thousands. Mark Carney's, it's almost signal digit, basically. I'm exaggerating the last point, but the fact is that Orange Man bad, the fever that is ripping through this country, it's actually destroyed its sport as well. I can't get over it. The better team won. I hated the 3-on-3 overtime. I will hate it till the end of my days. I just like shootouts. It's a team sport. If it was Olympic gold, they should have played until somebody scored the winning goal, which happened in this overtime, but it should just continue playing. None of the shootout and all that, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5 until someone scores. It is simple as that. But back to the bashing, folks. It is idiotic. You know what I mean? America deserves the gold medal. America deserves to have the Olympic hockey team show up at the State of the Union address because the Olympics and the State of the Union address happen to be so close together that why not invite their gold medal team to the State of the Union address, which I am happy to say I watched the majority of it until my brother called, and thankfully I did need a break because, boy, was that one of the longest State of the Union address I've ever seen, and I'm just happy to say that I enjoyed the Olympics. The better team won. I'm tired of the bashing. Where are the people celebrating the silver medal that the Canadian players brought home? Seriously, I shout out to all of them, basically. Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Peryenko. Oh, my goodness. The goalies, Binnington, Tage Thompson, are the American? That don't matter. All the Canadian players, folks, deserve kudos for winning. In fact, I have an Olympian living down the street from me for skiing and such. And you know what? Good on him, my neighbor. And Curtis is his name. He's a great fellow. I won't go into much more detail. I just met the fellow. He's a fine, fine individual. And hopefully things will come more of it. I don't know, but we'll see. It don't matter. The point is that we should be celebrating our silver medal. And we should. Yes, we lost the gold, but the silver is still better than bronze, and it's still better than not winning anything at all. Because didn't that happen a couple years ago, folks? That sucked, and that sucked worse than it did now. Despite the overtime goal that was scored, Jack Hughes, and guess what, folks? And this is really interesting, from 1980 American Olympic hockey team. Jack Hughes was not that Jack Hughes, but another Jack Hughes was cut from that team. And the guy who scores the gold-winning goal is a hero, Jack Hughes. The Hughes family is a huge, huge winning family, folks. The daughters, the sons, and the former, like the parents, they've all are Olympians, basically. They deserve all that, folks. The better team won, and we should acknowledge it, accept it, and move on, and not continuously bash because somehow it ties in with Orange Man bad. Boo-hoo, crybabies, boo-hoo. And I'm not really an Orange Man bad fan, but I will say this. I am happy as heck that he is the president of the United States of America. Because certainly things would be way worse than they are now, Canada. Way worse. Trust me. I mean, I don't like the stuff that's going on. But anyway, shout out to the boys in Canada. Let's just have another good look at this classic old jersey. I don't have a name or a number on the back. And in fact, it is quite big, as I was once quite big myself. I've lost some weight, need to lose some more. Anyways, yes, health-wise, I'm doing pretty good. My cholesterol is going down lower and lower. That's thanks to less processed foods and sugary pops and whatnot. I eat more beef. Go figure there, right? With the fat content and everything else, but that is good for you and your brain if you have or worried about things like Alzheimer's. Cholesterol is needed in your brain. Yes, folks, it is true. Now, I did have a plan to do a show yesterday. Going to change the subject now. Anyway, shout out to the boys who won silver. You deserved it. Wish you could have done better, but thank you for the entertainment and the break from reality. That's what I would like to say. And the recent kerfuffle in Mexico, and this hat is from Mexico. My dad brought it back for me from one of his trips. I am going to be asking my dad if he's going to Mexico here soon. I do believe he is. My mother's in Mexico. She was unaware of what was going on when I contacted her on X. I was on my iPad looking on things on X, Twitter, and such and that. I come across a thing that says, oh my goodness, the cartels are fighting in Mexico. Well, I kind of put down the X, turned off the X, called my mom and said, hey, Mom, you know there's some bullshit going on in Mexico. She was completely unaware of it. Thankfully, the bus that they were supposed to take into town had bearing issues because they never left the resort that morning. But I would hate to think what my mom could have been caught up with while she was in Puerto Vallarta or close to Puerto Vallarta. She is in no danger there whatsoever, but she did see the big, huge ship that the Mexicans have in their military on the beach, so to speak. And it has quieted down quite a bit. I just hope that she gets to leave on the 7th of March because from what I understand, there are people that are stuck there and their flights are being delayed every day to try and get out of the Mexican cartel bloodbath, right? That is something else. But anyways, I would like to say that for all of our government officials who say X is bad, we should ban it. Well, guess what, folks? It gave me the information to give my mums a heads up before the government of Canada could tell anybody in Mexico to shelter in place. That's how good X is. Every social media platform that is out there has issues, has something going on with it. But remember, everybody's trying to single out X because he's not playing along with the censorship things. He is following the rules of the law in each land regarding laws on censorship and everything else. But he is unwilling to bend the knee to these people like the EU and others, the United Nations, and so on. Anyways, I will never hopefully have to change another app if Canada decides to ban X. I think that would be the biggest mistake they ever made because considering the so-called kerfuffle with they're putting people in bathing suits, that's wrong. But they never talked about all the other platforms that do the same thing. I don't need to mention names, but they all have similar programs, but they only picked on one X. And one thing I will say about X, and one of the biggest reasons why I signed up to X, is because Elon Musk has promised to do free speech. And when I first signed up to X, and he was running the show, I was amazed how they were cracking down on the child predators on the Twitter X thing. It got to the point where Elon Musk basically bashed the former owner of Twitter X, Jack Dorsey, so shamefully about the child exploitation problem that Jack Dorsey basically apologized and didn't realize how bad it is. It's horrible, folks. And like just all this other things, but my goodness, it's just wrong. Wrong. I have a voice. I want to use it. You are a listener. I hope you use your voice to speak out, even if it's not on social media. Write a letter, get on a radio, do whatever, go contact an MP, MLA, civic leader. Just do something so that we can make our country better because we are coasting into a death trap, folks, because if you remember, a gentleman in the Department of the Budget's office, basically the Budget Oversight Office, says Canada has about 18 months of money left before we're officially broke. And Carney just gave another $2 billion to Ukraine. They just voted yesterday, folks, to extend the benefits of the health benefits of these asylum seekers and the rejected asylum seekers for $1.5 billion. There is a state in the United States, and I think it's Maine, and I could be wrong. It is wildly underpopulated compared to Canada, basically, but they have twice the amount of MRIs in that state alone that Canada has from coast to coast. Are we really, really a free healthcare better for the people nation? Are we? I mean, you take a look at Maine. Maine is now up to, I think, about 5%, and I may be conservative here, of all the deaths in Canada, the medical assistance in dying. And I risk having this video suppressed because I use that word, MAID, in my video. And it sucks. You know, people are dying for no reason other than that they're embarrassed or they have a mental illness and they're requesting aid and they're getting it. There was a story not too long ago, just a few short days ago, that happened on the weekend where a person was drunk, fell down, and hurt himself. Must have been bad because he's in the hospital. Unbeknownst to his doctors that were in charge of his care. What did I say? In charge of his care. He, the individual who's embarrassed about being drunk and fallen, he's not drunk in the hospital anymore, but he fell down and is embarrassed because of his past behaviors. He requested an interview with Maid. To make a long story short, folks, he's dead. He is no longer on this earth because he's embarrassed. He called Maid. Maid basically showed up with an assessor, had two witnesses ready to declare that he is willing to die for a fall. What about the young man who the family is suing basically and trying to get criminal charges against the people that are running Maid for killing him because he had an allergy and seasonal depressions? He went from Ottawa basically to British Columbia to get this done because of his illness upstairs, and they allowed it. It is shameful. Many, many people I've heard online who are on disability, who are disabled in wheelchairs, have diseases that are expensive to fix, and they're constantly bombarded by officials from Maid. Well, but we just want to make sure that you understand and, like there are other options. How about heal me? I'm a person in pain 24/7 almost now. I can rattle off all my health issues, but I'm not going to bore you with that. My wife has a tethered spinal cord, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to clock somebody if they ever ask either of us if we want Maid. And it's another thing that I'd like to talk about. This is in BC, and I know I'm ranting and whatever I got in my info feed that tells you what I'm going to talk about today, but there is a bill being passed, and I talked to my doctor recently on Tuesday about it, on April 1st or April 30th. I can't remember the exact date, but there is a bill that was passed in British Columbia legislation that forces doctors to comply with the government orders. The doctor will now be forced to follow government guidelines for your health versus him, his intuition, and his ability to help you without being hindered by a government that may suppress treatment, folks, right? Treatment. Remember how COVID went down? And I could tell you a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to go there, there or there. No. Erase that, folks. I will say that things like ivermectin and hydrochloroquine and a host of other things were suppressed when COVID hit because, get this, you cannot attempt to make a vaccine if there is a proven therapeutic for this. Here we are to this day and age, right? Anyways, I know I'm rambling and everything else like that because I just like to talk. And I wish I could do a little bit of commercials and stuff like this. Remember, folks, I am doing this for fun, house coat chat. I am just a dude in a house coat today at the Jersey, only because I want to honor my boys who won silver, and my team, the Flames, and all that. They play tonight and everything else. But the government is shitting down our throats because they want the World Economic Forum post-national state where everybody is forced to be a number, so to speak, and we have no individuality. Basically, they are conquering and dividing us so bad and so harshly. I mean, seriously, all you have to do is realize how many Canadians are upset with the Americans winning the gold and trashing the players for showing up in Toronto with the gold medal around their neck and saying how shameful they are for showing up with such a brazen medal in Canada. Like, holy smokes, folks, the Trump derangement syndrome in this country is through the roof. And again, I am not an Orange Man fan. I'm not a Pierre Poilievre supporter either, despite my feed and despite my MP being Todd Doherty, who I like to thank, criticize, and poke the bear by saying, what the heck is going on with our country, right? I mean, really, let's think about it. All the stuff that's leaving, right? Leaving Canada. Where's the help for us? I mean, what is the slogan now that we're going to build Canada strong? We're going to be our own best customer? Where did the Eastern Canada just get their natural gas from? Give you a hint? Throw shrimp on the Barbie? Good day, mate. 25,000 miles or kilometers away, around the tip of the Horn of South Africa, all the way up the Brazil coast, the eastern United States coast, up into the St. Lawrence Seaway, folks. 25,000 miles. Quebec has natural gas, they just don't drill. Alberta is 4,000 kilometers away from the terminal, so to speak, for Eastern Canada to get supplied natural gas. We can build a pipeline. Isn't that buying Canadians? Why are we shipping beef to Hawaii cheaper than we sell it in Canada, but we import beef from New Zealand that's cheaper than what we're selling our Canadian beef for? Make it make sense, right? I mean, my goodness. I don't want to really eat New Zealand beef unless I'm going to specifically look for it. What I want is a steak from Alberta or a steak that is grown around Vanderhoof, British Columbia, near my community, just like the milk, folks. I want it local. And it can happen, but we have too many corporations, too many greedy people in the pie, and too many people making money off of us that shouldn't be making money off of us just by simple allowance of the government to say we'll get it from here and we'll stop it from coming from within. Look, we're building boats that are in China. Our ferries from British Columbia are going to be built in China. And our safety minister, our international safety minister, who thought it would be a good idea to give our guns to the Ukrainians to fight war because they're telling Canadians that the weapons that they're trying to ban in Canada are made for war. But the Ukrainian government said, no thanks, we have no use for civilian weapons. And I want to say this about that. The gun is a tool. Always has been, always will be. All right? And it's sad to see what happened in Tumbler Ridge. My heart, my prayer, the candle is lit for everybody in that community. But the people that are there, the RCMP giving back the guns on the basis of politics versus public safety. And by politics, I mean they just don't want to upset the gender bender community too much because it's politics, right, folks? Not public safety. Remember, the person that killed all these people there, and I really don't want to talk about it, but guess what? He also tried to burn the house down. The older brother is up for attempted murder. Is this a family that's worthy? I shouldn't say that word, worthy, but is this a family in need of help? I mean, the mother kept the boys away from the fathers intentionally. She loved the aspect of them being trans, so to speak. I'm not sure of the older brother, but yes, she was very supportive and pushed it. There's another similar case in Florida where a son who wanted to be a girl, so to speak, killed the family. It is a tragic, tragic thing, and it's not the guns. Seriously, the gun is a tool. If the person didn't have a gun, they would use something else, just like the brother of the killer in Tumbler Ridge. He was caught not at the address that he's supposed to be. He was caught at another address with brass knuckles, weapons, and he's not supposed to have any. Remember, the other fellow who hurt his own children from Grand Prairie is still out and about making videos on social media, and it's stunning to see. Meanwhile, Tamara Lynch, Chris Barber, Jeremy McKenzie, Patrick King, the Coots 4 people that are trying to stand up to the government for overreach, basically, are thrown into the clink, locked up forever, and denied justice forever. Some of these cases are still going on to this day, such as a restaurant owner in Ontario. 6 years after the fact, basically, because they shut down his business, he gets his day in court. 6 years, folks. But boy, they're quick to hammer Tamara Lynch, Chris Barber, and extend that whole thing out, right? Give them solitary confinement and a whole host of other things for daring to say no to the government. We'd like a better thing than being forced to vaccinate because of our Charter of Rights, folks. We have a wonderful Charter of Rights. It needs to be better, and the reason it needs to be better is because there needs to be accountability for the people abusing it. Justin Trudeau should be like the South Korean prime minister, folks, who used the War Measures Act in South Korea to do what Trudeau did with the people at the convoy. Slightly different scenarios. One is the lockdown aspect. Up here, it is the protesting that was peaceful, never did any real harm. Folks, never did. And in fact, today, while I was on X, I witnessed the people that want to stay here on their temporary visas for work, foreign workers, the visas, all those temporary people scuffling with the police at their own protest. I never really seen anybody at the protests for the convoy do any of that. There were some shenanigans, a few other things like that, but there was plenty of lies, folks. If I could have went to Ottawa, I wish I could have. I really, really do. I wish the money was there because I would have flown. I really do. I mean, I wish I had that kind of money just to do things on the whimsical. I bought a lot of tickets, so let's hope out. My other things, well, the investments, well, that's another story there. Oh, the world's chaotic and crazy. And let's get back to the government, folks. Why does Carney always say it's a more dangerous and divided world, and yet he leaves to go travel the world? Make that make sense, right, folks? Make that make sense. Why is Pierre Poilievre going to Germany at this time? Why are 3 Conservative Party members going quietly to India to meet criminals that are on trial, basically? They're not official criminals yet, but these people are suspected in dealing in narcotics and psychiatric, mushrooms, basically. They're hallucinogenic drugs. Anyways, yes, they're up for charges for that. And our MPs, the people have elected within Canada, are quietly meeting these people. Remember, folks, the leadership conventions have now allowed outsiders to vote for candidates in leadership races. So, do you think Pierre is going to be the next prime minister or the next leader at the next convention? I have my hunches, folks. Even Ontario is allowing that in the progressive, or yes, Doug Ford's party. They're going to allow foreigners to vote in a leadership race. You can't make this stuff up. The amount of corruption within this government, and I can go on and on and on, and I'll just give you a few things. There is the former Edmonton mayor caught up in corruption in a gravel scandal. He's caught up, I believe, with the Gordie Howe Bridge. He is not from this country, Sohi or Soho, whatever. He's a former Liberal minister. He is also a part of, I believe, the World Sikh Organization, Mocha Borenzian. Hopefully I say it anyway. Mocha brings the smoker. He is an independent reporter. He has another fellow with him named Joe Hall, and they've been trying to expose the likes of the people that are involved in the World Sikh Organization and other things that are going on that are trying to circumvent our country, folks. Yes, remember, there are many people out there or organizations and groups such as the Jewish Council for Canada, the Muslim Council for Canada. I'm paraphrasing here. There's the Indigenous Council for Canada. There's the Japanese, there's the Chinese, Indonesia, the Ethiopians, the Sudanese, the Haitians. Where are the old stock Canadians? The European bred, so to speak. Where's their voice? Well, guess where their voice is? They're clapped into a thing that's called white supremacy. What the fuck is that? I mean, they're trying to say white supremacy is the worst thing that's happening into Canada. But I see violence from all these newcomers coming into this country, including what I just mentioned a few minutes ago regarding a protest thing that's happening in Ontario. People on the that are here temporarily to fill in a job gap, whatever you want to call it, are scuffling with the police. Like I said, never saw anything like that with the convoy. Never really. And here we are today. You have all the other groups, right? Death to this, death to that, death to Canada. But you want to be proud of Canada? You're not Canadian. Make it make sense, folks. Yes, make it make sense. And I know I'm at the 29-minute mark here, and I've been yakety yak yak, yak yak. And yes, I am going to end it here because it is roughly the 30-minute mark. I got a lot more I'd like to talk about, but the biggest thing I want to talk about is quit bashing the American players that played the better game by winning with one more goal in overtime and start celebrating the Canadians who brought home the silver. Who cares what the Americans are doing with their celebrations, folks? Let's embrace the players that tried their best to get us the gold. I mean, shout out to every single one of those players. My goodness. Sam Bennett, Sidney Crosby sadly got hurt. Brian Marchand, Peryenko, whose name I've mentioned, and a whole host of other good players. And also, the person who denied Wayne Gretzky to go read off the starting lineup for the Canadian team before they jumped the ice, whoever denied Wayne Gretzky a chance to say that in the dressing room to pump up the boys, to pump them up. Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players to ever play this game, who has stood this nation on his shoulders for year after year in the Canada Cup, other World Series, and Olympics, and now we're spitting on him. The only people that get to spit on Wayne Gretzky is a Flames fan. And me, I'm a Flames fan. Poof! There's the Gretzky as an Oiler and an LA King and a St. Louis Blue and a New York Ranger. He was a lot of different teams, wasn't he? Anyway, he doesn't deserve any scorn, folks. He is a hero to this country, and I'm tired of him being bashed. Anyways, like I always say near the end of my show, I hope you go to an SPCA, folks, at least once in your life. You don't have to adopt, but go look and see the good that they do. You can make a donation. You can pet a furball. You can volunteer. Animals we are what we call the apex people and animals on this planet. We should be taking care of our animals better. Anyways, I'm rambling and positive vibes, folks. Look, I'm also getting a little tongue-tied. Anyways, yes, love you all. Positive vibes. Mom, hope you're in Mexico still safe. I hope you watch this video. It's going to be sent to you right away. Same with you, Dad, and all that, folks. Remember, folks, we're Canadian. We should be celebrating what we should be celebrating as a great country. We should stop being divided. Take care. Bye-bye.